Let's get into the African view. Every Monday, we always debate a matter, and it's always fun to see the different sides on which a question can be seen. And today, we're looking at online gambling and esports. Across the continent, we know the industry is rapidly transforming from fringe activities into major lifestyle industries, with millions of people in particular engaging through mobile devices. These sectors present more opportunities now, and also there's serious challenges. The question today for the Africa View debate, we're asking, should African governments legalize and regulate online gambling and esports? And helping us on this one, we've got Mongezi Mahlangu, who is a gaming entrepreneur, and also we joined on this conversation by Charlotte Nkuna, who is a managing director and specialist wellness counselor. Let me start with you, Mongezi. Welcome on the show.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. And I'd like to say greetings to everybody that's listening throughout the continent of Africa.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about your answer to this question. Should African governments legalize and regulate online gambling and esports?
Excuse me, can you please repeat your question? There seems to be a noise in the background.
Okay, I'm also getting a bit of a feedback from you. I'm not quite sure why, but I was just asking you, what's your response to that question? Should African governments legalize and regulate online gambling and esports?
Definitely should be regulated. First and foremost, I'd like to state the difference between what esports and gaming is. All right. First and foremostly, the word gaming belongs to actual gaming, which is playing on consoles, which is playing digitized games, which is playing board games. That's what gaming is originally. Mm-hmm. But then when you look at the word gambling then became a word that was, how can I say, stereotyped, in the sense that it's no longer a good word that comes off the tongue, especially on the marketing and selling point of gambling. So they converted the word gambling into adult gaming. And when that happened, there was a major confusion between what is esports and what is gaming. So when your child says, "No, mom, I'm gaming," automatically they think that they are gambling. Sure. And when we say we're doing esports, they have no idea as to what is electronic sports. So we really had a major fight when it came to South African gaming companies registering themselves on CIPC, because you couldn't register your company as Tam Gaming or Sizagale Gaming, because that gaming word was then required for you to have a gambling license for you to register a gaming company. Mm-hmm. Some of the big gaming companies we have in South Africa, like Zamani Gaming, which is responsible for Ituba, which handles the gambling processes for the National Lottery. They have taken upon that name and have got a gambling license. That's why they can go commercial with the word Zamani Gaming. But then with us, we had to go to the National Gambling Board and get clarification. I've sent you the document, which is stated by the director of the National Gambling Board, that states that gaming and esports are completely two different entities. And esports has nothing to do with gambling. However, there is money that you win on the outcome of that particular tournament, just like soccer, just like rugby, just like any other sport. We don't take away the fact that, yes, there are people who take opportunity to gamble around the outcome within our esports tournaments. Right. But that is not our line of business.
Okay, let's come to you, Charlotte. We love to just open this debate and find out where you stand as well. Where do you stand on today's debate? Charlotte, are you there? Okay, it seems like we've lost Charlotte off the line. We're going to take a quick break, Toliasmo, and stay with us while we bring in Charlotte back into the conversation. Today's debate topic is, should African governments legalize and regulate online gambling and esports as mainstream lifestyle industries for jobs and entertainment? Where do you stand in this particular conversation? Our On The Move poll is up on our X handle as well, where you can participate and have your say. We're asking you that same question, and the options we give you are yes, you should regulate and tax, you should legalize but limit access, you should keep it restricted, or only esports should be allowed. Go there at Channel Africa 1 on X.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Kapela Mutachu tunaelezwa kwamba waziri wa zamani wa polisi Mbekisele ameanza kutoa ushahidi wake mbele ya kamati ya bunge. Pengine namna ambavyo anaelezea na kutoa ushahidi wake, hii ikoje na imekaje? Hali hii ambavyo ilivyo hivi sasa inaleta picha gani kwa raia wa Afrika Kusini?
Hii hali inaleta picha nzuri, kwanza inaonyesha kama usalama wa nchi hauko kwenye njia nzuri. Wakati wale wenyewe wanapewa nafasi ya kufanya ulinzi wa nchi na ulinzi wa raia, wanakwenda kukamatwa na wenyewe kuwa miongoni ya watu wenyewe wanakwenda tena kuziwia wala kuprotect maalifu. Inaleta hali mbaya ndani ya nchi kuhusu usalama kwanza wa nchi peke yake, usalama wa raia.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Keeping you on the know and on the move.
It's an interesting one because there's so many ways that the online world has opened up. It's also opened up really new divisions of gambling all across the continent and the world over. So online gambling has become quite popular. Esports has also become quite popular, as we've heard from our first guest, Mongezi Mahlangu, saying, hey, this is something completely different from gambling, but it is seen and regulated as such. However, there's also sports betting, which has become quite big on today. In fact, sports betting has been seen quite a huge, seemingly troubling trend here in South Africa, with the increased number of teenagers engaging in online gambling through sports betting. We continue this debate from both of our guests. Charlotte Nkuna is also part of this particular conversation, who is the managing director and specialist wellness counselor. Charlotte, let's hear your thoughts and opening lines on today's debate.
Thank you so much for having me. My opening line would be that, gambling in any form, whether it's online, whether it's, on a physical facility, the risks are the same. And with today's teenagers being, exposed to so many, different online platforms, we cannot argue that the risk for addiction is higher. And that is something that we really have to take into consideration, in as much as, we can see the fourth industrial revolution coming in. What then does it mean with regards to also, the high stats of addiction that we are seeing, with many, young people having to be admitted to rehab even before they reach the age of 18 because they are now addicted, to esports or online sports betting. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's come back to you, Tolesmo. As you heard, there is a huge problem that we seemingly are dealing with here in South Africa and all across the African continent, where younger people are getting into gambling and perhaps, esports or sports betting being an entry level to something that could be potentially harmful and addictive. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely disagree. First and foremost, I couldn't hear what Charlotte was saying. I don't know if she's on the same line as me. But what I can say is that first and foremost, it's incorrect to treat esports like a gateway drug to gambling.
Yeah.
First and foremost, the esports is about competitive nature. It's almost like saying that playing soccer is dangerous because it's going to lead to gambling. First and foremost, when it comes to esports, these kids are professionals at what they do. They train like any other sports professional. They have tournaments, they have matches, they have boot camps and so forth. And they also participate obviously in tournaments online and physically as well. Now, when it comes to sports betting, now in the world of esports, we do have betting on the outcomes of the games. But then in South Africa, it's not something that is really kicking off as such because of the lack of what can I say, the multitude of these tournaments that are available compared to soccer and rugby tournaments. Now, the problem with online betting is that kids are able to get into these online betting portals, even though they don't have the correct identification or the right age to participate in these things. And it's all up to the parents as well to actually to know as to what is it that their kids are getting up to on their cell phones. But I'd really like to say that esports is not a gateway drug to gambling.
Charlotte, do you agree with that? Do you think that it's fair what Mongezi is saying there? Because if parents don't know how these kids are navigating this e-gaming environment, how would they even regulate whether they're doing it a little bit too much or maybe it's becoming something that's of a danger to them? What's your take to the response of Mongezi there?
I'm sorry, I am not able to hear him at all from my end. If you could just give me the key points of what he was saying.
I can't hear her response.
All right, let's see if we can sort that out, because it'll be important for you guys to hear each other on the responses itself. But Mongezi was basically saying, Charlotte, is the fact that, the regulation is something that's important because it would probably create more opportunities for kids to actually be on the systems kind of in a way that is responsible, because they are responsible with their gaming patterns. But it's also important for parents themselves to make sure how these children are also navigating esporting and gaming. And it's coming back to the idea whether it's an addiction or not.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I think what I am very skeptical of from my side, being in the addiction space, right, is that there's a reason why children are not even allowed to gamble until they reach the age of 18. And this is often even a pattern that we see when they are exposed to gaming too much, right? It's that the reward patterns in the brain get so overstimulated such that by the time that they reach the age of 18, if they've started to gamble before they've reached the age of 18, their risk of addiction is much higher, thus then exposing them to developing addiction earlier as compared to an adult who started gambling at the age of 20 and onwards, right? So, and I mean, with regulation, let's look at even the current regulations that are put in place currently in terms of online and physical betting. There are so many loopholes within our regulation, such that when you look at options such as what we call self-exclusion is when somebody says, what, I've been gambling too much, I now want to stop gambling, so I would like for the betting operator to exclude me from being able to participate in that. And when they now go to self-exclude, you find that they exclude in one betting operator, but they're still allowed to gamble elsewhere. So that regulation on its own is not effective when it comes to trying to assist someone who sees that they're on the verge of developing an addiction, or that they're already addicted, and they can't stop themselves. So saying that now regulating will actually protect, the kids in a way, I think it's a long shot. And with the current regulations, not even enforcing what we would like to see from a wellness perspective. So I believe that, in as much as it is economically viable, and that is because you have a lot of punters or gamblers who are exposed to addiction such that they spend all of their money, they spend their life savings gambling, and then we say it's a viable industry, but now the emotional wellness of it, the mental health aspect of it is not being taken care of. And this is why we see that there's such a high rise in addiction, because in as much as people doing sports betting, the statistics are higher that they are engaging in that form of esports, but also the addiction rate is going higher.
Well, Charlotte and Mongezi, we have to leave it there. I think you guys had both strong points on this particular matter, equally powerfully strong views. right? And I hope that you guys were able to hear each other, but unfortunately, because of our technicalities, you couldn't. But the debate actually went well. Despite that, you guys gave us very strong viewpoints, and we'll have to leave it there. Thank you to our guests for giving us their time. That's Mongezi Mo, who is a gaming entrepreneur. We're also joined by Charlotte Nkuna, who's a managing director and specialist wellness counselor on that conversation.